Hello, fellow crafters. This is Yana Smakula for SimonsSTM.com. Welcome back for another Yippee for Yana video. In this episode, I have a clean and simple floral card featuring some ink blending using a stencil. I'm just returning back from a trade show that I visited in Germany. I demoed all week there and I think I lost my voice. I also caught a little cold, so I'm just recovering from that. I'm almost over the cold, but my voice hasn't returned just yet. So I do apologize about that, but I hope you will still enjoy this video. I simply adore the new stencil design from Simon, the big, beautiful flowers from the Peony Bouquet stencil. I'm going to ink blend the flowers in various colors of ink on white cardstock. For this, I'm taping the stencil in place using low-tech tape to the panel, or rather, taping the panel to the back of the stencil. This will make sure that the paper stays in place and it's not going to move while I do my ink blending. I've already picked several colors of ink for this project. I have 3 shades of each color. I have Magnolia, Teeny Bikini, and Twirling Tutu for the flowers, as well as Forever Green. This is actually the only color that is not from Simon. This color is from Hero Arts. Next, I have Willow and Jellybean colors for the leaves. I'm going to start by ink blending the flowers. For this, I need to mask off the leaves so that I don't accidentally blend the ink over the leaf areas. And I'm doing this with small bits of washi tape, and it's actually very easy to do. I have 2 ink blending tools. These are Ranger ink blending tools with the Spellbinder's foam attached to them. I love to use Spellbinder's foam as it picks up and blends the ink perfectly. Of course, there are so many different various blending tools on the market these days, and I encourage you to use the tools that you are most comfortable with. I'm first ink blending the lightest ink color just to the tips of the petals, and I'm using the edge of the tool to get into the smaller areas and make sure that I don't over apply this ink color. Next, I'm blending the medium color, extending it a bit further down into the petals and adding more color. You can go very detailed with this stencil and even use your pencils or markers to enhance the look of each petal and add more detail. I like to keep my cards simple for the most part, so I'm going for speedy color application method, which is this ink blending, and I think it works really well. I go back in and add more color where needed to make sure I have pretty flowers. Finally, I'm switching to another ink blending tool and to the darkest color of ink and adding it just to the center of the peonies. This helps darken the flowers and really brings them to life. You can have a similar look by using just one ink pad and varying the pressure with which you apply the ink. You go very light-handed on the edges of the petals and very heavy-handed in the center. With the flowers ink blended, let's blend the leaves. I've removed the tape that was masking the leaves, and now I'm using fresh pieces of tape to mask the flowers. I need to do that so that no green ink will get on the beautiful ink blended petals that we just created. With the masking done, although I later discovered that I did miss one spot, so I started ink blending the leaves. For this, I'm using a smaller ink blending tool from my craft room, and again, I'm starting with the lightest color first. If you like to use ink blending brushes, this is where you would use a smaller size brush for precise application. With the lightest color applied, I move on to adding a little bit of the medium color, and I go about halfway into the leaves. And with that added to the paper, I add the darkest color just to the base of the leaves. It looks beautiful. Time to remove the stencil and reveal this gorgeous ink blended background. I love the way it turned out. Very soft, very beautiful, and most importantly, it was very easy to do. I'm going to add some ink splatter over the flowers using Hero Arts White Iridescent Shimmer Spray. I love using this product for adding extra sparkle and shine to my cards. Now let's work on a sentiment. For this, I'm using Miss You, MISSY stamp set by Kathy Zelski, and I'm going to heat emboss a sentiment that reads, "I think about you all the time," in white embossing powder on white cardstock. I've treated the paper with anti-static powder tool. I inked the stamp up with clear embossing ink and stamped it onto the paper. Next, I'm adding white embossing powder and going to heat set the powder with my heat tool to melt it. You probably cannot see any of that, as it's all white on white at this point, but it looks beautiful. Having heat set the powder, I want to add some ink blending using the same colors of ink that I used to ink blend the flowers. I'm starting with the lightest color at the top. I'm adding medium color to the bottom and go about 2/3 up. And finally, blending a hint of the darkest color at the very bottom. The sentiment now looks great, and I think it matches in color perfectly to the background. This stamp set also has a tiny heart image. I'm stamping it in all 3 colors of ink. I plan to cut it out using a coordinating die and use the hearts as tiny embellishments for the card, instead of using sequins or gems. This sentiment also has a coordinating die. This is what I actually really love about this stamp set, and I've already cut it out in my die cutting machine. I also die cut a shadow layer from black cardstock, and now I'm using glue to adhere it to the back of the sentiment to create a bit of a drop shadow effect. I have already trimmed the panel to 4 by 5 1/4 inches, and I foam mounted it to an A2 white card base. Next, I'm using foam adhesive squares to foam mount the sentiment, and I'm also using half of the small squares to foam mount the tiny pink hearts. I'm scattering them diagonally on the panel. And that finishes this simple card. It was easy and quick to make, and it is also one that would be easy to mass produce should you need to do so. If you make a card inspired by this video, as always, we'd love it if you shared your project online and tagged us on social media. We always enjoy what you guys are making. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet done so. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Bye!